McKenzie River Guides Association president.
Can you go ahead and spell your first and last name for us?
Stevemealey.
And Ann, you can just look in the middle. So Steve, go ahead and let us know why. So yesterday you found out about an annual thing that obviously you volunteered to do. Tell us about that.
For about 70 years, the McKenzie Guides Association, as a volunteer organization with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, distributes the planted fish in the McKenzie River. And so we found out yesterday, and in fact that plant was scheduled for today. That means that that we would have had the plant boat that received the fish, taken them down the river and shoveled them out into the water for the entire section of about 10 miles of river from here down to Hendricks. We learned yesterday that the Corps of Engineers had disallowed that plant. Said nope, we're not going to allow that. Our trucks are going to come today and dump the fish directly into the river at the boat landings.
And why? What kind of repercussions does that have?
Well, the repercussions are that all the fish will be concentrated at the landings, and there are three. This one here at Lieberg, one down at Deerhorn, and one at Taylor's, and that's about 4 miles of the planted section. That means so virtually 100% of the fish will be in 40% of the water. 60% of the river will have no fish. So that means people that want to fish are going to have about 6 miles where there aren't any. If we had used the plant boat, we would have distributed the fish evenly throughout the whole 10-mile section, so everybody could have had a chance at them.
Why does that, personally upset you? You've been doing this for so many years. How many years have you been volunteering?
Well, I said the guides have been doing this for about 70 years. So we've done it every year. Now, what happened this year that's different is that the Corps of Engineers changed their contractor. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife used to raise the fish, and we, as their partners, would distribute them. The contractor now is High Desert Spring that just showed up, and they're down at Summer Lake, and so they got a new contractor. This isn't their fault. It's simply the Corps of Engineers changed their process, and they don't recognize the guides as a bona fide representative of the Corps of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And they said because we don't recognize the guides, we're not going to transfer the fish into the boat. We're going to put them directly in the water, and that's that.
Is there something that you are going to hopefully do for next year that maybe this is something that you can change, advocate, or do?
It isn't between the guides. It's up to ODF&W and the Corps of Engineers to reach some agreement. They're going to have to agree that the guides are an acceptable surrogate for fish and game, or say no, we're never going to recognize that, and keep dumping the fish out at the landings. That's a bad deal. If you're a fisherman, that means that all the fish are going to be here at these 3 landings. They come to fish, they're going to be elbow to elbow with other people, sanitation problems, garbage problems, poaching problems, and there's 6 miles of the river with no fish.
And so how does ODF respond to some of these concerns that you have?
Well, they're not happy. Obviously, this doesn't meet their responsibility, which is to provide recreation opportunity for the public. The tough part is this is a world-class river, and it has this long legacy of drift boat fishing, and the guides, of course, have been a part of that. But with no fish on 60% of this drift, that means that guided people with their own drift boats or the guides are simply going to not be able to carry out their legacy. There's no reason to go down there. There's no fish. So it changes the whole way that people recreate and use this river. It basically disallows, it means that folks with drift boats aren't going to be fishing.
And this might seem like a silly question, but is there any chance that some of the fish in this stretch can kind of migrate their way down a little bit?
Will the fish migrate down? Not very far. No, they tend, these are hatchery fish. They were raised in 61-degree water. They're going to hit the water here at about 45. It's going to be pretty chilly, and they're not going to be eager to move very far. So they're going to hang out real close to where they were dumped out. So they're not going to migrate down. The only thing that would take them down would be high water, and that's not likely. So, you know, this is a bad deal for the general public and the recreation opportunity to get on the Mackenzie from fishing.
And so obviously this poses some impacts to recreation and to fishermen. Does it have any environmental impacts other than just not having fish in that stretch of the river?
I would say the environmental effects are far less than the effects on people. You know, these are hatchery fish. You know, the Mackenzie has there's this about 70-80 miles length of the Mackenzie. There's only about 40% of that river which is available for hatchery fish. And I live down the river. I see mom and dad and their kids come by. You can catch these fish. Little guys get to catch a fish. They're so happy, and you know, out of the boat. That's not going to be possible because these fish are going to be concentrated at these landings, and the best they can do is wade out there with their stick and try to catch a fish off the end. And that's the tough part here. And it's so unnecessary because this is a bureaucratic argument that ought to be resolved and should have been resolved a long time before the first plant.
And this was a recent change that was just...
Yesterday. I found out about it yesterday.
Okay.
So it came to as a shock. You were ready to
Oh yeah,
go.
we were ready. Aaron Helfrich is going to run the boat. We were ready to put it in the water and load the fish and go.
Do you have anything else to add?
We're the guides. The guides have offered to fund a position for ODF&W to meet the requirements of Corps of Engineers. So we're not self-serving. We just want to get the public back as part of this fishing experience and make sure we don't lose this great legacy of drift boat fishing on the Mackenzie.
So you've offered to fund a position that works directly with them to drop the fish in, so that way you guys can continue doing it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Have you heard anything back on that?
No.
So why is the Mackenzie the river that this is done with boats?
What, Ken?
Why is Mackenzie the river that this is done with planting boats?
Okay. Why is the planting boat process unique to this river? Just look at it. This is not a wadeable river. This isn't, I mean, as a lifelong fisherman, this isn't a river you want to go out and wade. The only way you can really, there's a lot of private property along the side. So the way you access this river is in a boat. That's why the boat evolved here in the Mackenzie. And so obviously, again, with 60% of the river with no fish, what good does the boat do? There's no fish there. And the fish that are here are fish from the bank. Changes the whole deal. Not good.
Awesome.
So over that 70 years, the planting boat has evolved just like the Mackenzie River drift boat has.
Yes, it has. Yeah, the plant boat used to be pretty crude. The plant boat now is about 18 feet long. It's got a big wire container where you dump the fish in, and they're in river water. And one guy runs the boat, the other guy has a shovel, or the other volunteer has a net, dips them in, and puts them out. Some people have said, well, that's self-serving for the guides. They just put the fish where they want them and then take their guests and go catch them out. That's nonsense. There's only so many places in the river where hatchery fish can survive, and that's where we put them.
And who owns the boat?
Fish and Game, ODF&W. It's not the guides.
It's not the guides.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Great.